Hey guys, Naeem Tryman here again, and today I am talking about chapter 13 of my book, Praying for Peace, A Journey to Serenity. Um, See, when we last left off, it was March of 2005. I'd already been in one rehab, and that didn't take. I was drinking in secret, and the team that I was coaching had just had won a sectional championship, and I just had lost in a subsequent championship game for basketball, so we were done. And and I complicated that loss by getting drunk that night and going to see them, which really disappointed them. It was a bad decision. Um, from there, things just snowballed. I hooked up with an old girlfriend that had lived away, and she had just moved back to the area, and we started dating, and was hanging out in a really bad part of New Jersey, or part of Essex County, which is Irvington, which is right on the edge of Newark, and it's not a good area. It so happened that my ex-girlfriend and her son had just moved to another ex-girlfriend, the one that I just broken up with, and her son had just moved to Irvington also. So it was kind of like killing two birds with one stone. I had gotten really attached to this kid, and I considered him a son, and we decided to share custody. She could see the impact that I was having in his life, and she trusted me to help her. So I worked a 24-hour shift, so I would get off at 8 o'clock in the morning. He was 2, so he wasn't really in school. I mean, I would go pick him up first thing in the morning, and I would keep him all of day 1, all of day 2, all of day 3, bring him home that night, go back to work the next day, and that's kind of how things went. So I had this relationship with a girl down there, and she had a 4-year-old daughter. So it was our kids played together, and things really started to take a turn for me. I had been drinking a lot, but I was always drinking kind of at home and in my room, and now I was hanging out in Irvington, and I was hanging out with people that were selling a lot more than weed, and that were carrying guns, and it was bad. It was, and I'm doing this while I'm making really good money in a state job as a firefighter, and even that is starting to fall apart. I'm losing weight. I'm not eating nearly as much. All I care about is drinking and smoking. When I'm hungry, I smoke a cigarette. And I don't have nearly as much money in my pocket that I should have, because not only was I drinking and smoking every day, but everybody that I was hanging with in Irvington, I mean, most of them, were either young. They were either my girlfriend's cousins, who they were high school kids, or they were broke, and they didn't, it was just kind of like, I don't care, it's on me, and I spend ridiculous amounts of money making sure everybody was feeling nice. And that spilled over into work. I mean, I wasn't that interested in it to begin with. I knew I wasn't that good at it. I didn't feel like I fit in, and then my boss started picking on me. The battalion chief that I had no tolerance for me. For whatever his reasoning was, he did not like me, and he wasn't shy about that. He made me do extra work. He singled me out. He kind of went out of his way a lot of times to make me feel insufficient. And that didn't really help when I didn't feel so good about myself to begin with. So I started coming to work basically still drunk from the night before. If I had to be to work at 8 and I woke up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and I couldn't sleep, I'd take a swig, go back to sleep. So, I mean, I would go to work there's probably times I was at work with a blood alcohol level. I mean, I don't know the numbers, but a number that I shouldn't be legally driving a car with, easily. On top of that, every time I got to work, if I had time, the way things worked was that you have to have a minimum of 3 people in every engine or truck. If there's more than that day, then you can take off. If not, then you're stuck there. When I realized we had extra people, I always took off, and people would take off to like go see their kid play baseball or go to their daughter's dance recital or whatever. I was take the whole night off to go to Irvington and play spades, drink, and smoke weed, and that was my life. And I was doing that with my son and with my girlfriend's daughter, and that was basically the way things worked. So we did that for a couple of months, and then things changed. One of her cousin's friends, one of my girlfriend's cousin's friends, and I was very close to her cousin. I used to sign her cousin out of school when he was 15, so he could come and get messed up with us. His best friend, him and his best friend were sitting. Me and my girlfriend had taken her other cousin with us on a double date because I wanted him to go to the prom with one of my girls, and so we weren't in the hood, and we were usually down in the hood like every day. My girlfriend didn't want to hang out in the suburbs, so we weren't there. And her other cousin was sitting in a stairwell with his boy, and somebody came in and robbed them. And then after giving them everything that they had, they turned around and shot him anyway. Not her cousin, shot his best friend. So we got the call and we raced down. We picked him up. He was crying, covered in blood. We'd take him down to University Hospital in Newark, which is the same hospital that I was taken to when I had my car accident. And we waited in the waiting room for what seemed like forever. And doctors came out and said that they couldn't stop the bleeding and that that he had succumbed to his injuries. So that sent me into more of a spiral. I was around for the next few days, with them and mourning and drowning sorrows and all that. But the day after we buried him, I was having panic attacks. I was breaking. Like my hands were shaking. My heart felt like it was going to beat out of my chest. I couldn't stop crying. And it wasn't really about the guy. I didn't really know him that well. It was just the alcohol. I was flooded with emotion and just confusion. And my depression was just at that point where it was obvious that I was not functioning and that I needed a change. So I checked myself into a detox unit at St. Michael's Hospital in Newark. I stayed there for like 2 or 3 days, and then I signed a 48-hour release. I wasn't getting help. I was being removed from the alcohol, but I was in basically a psych ward / detox in downtown Newark, with there was no group sessions, there was no counseling sessions really. It was a waste of time. But I knew I needed help, so when I got out, I went. I'm not sure how I came about it. I don't know if I went through my job or what, but the hospital that was in Montclair, Mountainside, had an intensive outpatient program. So 3 days a week, I went from 9:30 to 1:30, and then they also get I also got individual counseling, and I got to meet with a psychiatrist. When I was in my first rehab, they had suggested medication, and I had family members that had bad experiences with that. So I was adamant that I didn't want drugs, but obviously the first one didn't take. I was away for a week, and I came back, and I was drinking almost immediately, and now the depression was snowballing. So I agreed to start on Paxil. I was kind of on again, off again with that. It took a while for me to really. I didn't really get on it for months. But I did have the prescription, and I did try to acclimate myself to the Paxil. So then I met another girl. Her name's Shantae in the book, and we'd actually known each other for a while, but just there was a spark one night, and we started dating, and everything moved really fast. I swore that I was in love, and we had these matching tattoos. I got these matching tattoos after like 2 weeks, drunk in the village, and I did a lot of drinking that summer. I did a lot of nothing was really taken. I did the intensive outpatient for like a month, but I was the manager at the pool at that point. I had keys to the pool, so we used to go, not break in because I had keys. We used to sneak in basically to the pool, which was in the middle of a county park, or maybe it's a town park, but a park. Sneak in and be on the deck drinking and smoking with friends. I mean, it got dangerous. It got to be like 10, 15 people there. Like word started to get around. It was really bad. So one night the cops came and we stopped doing that. But me and her, it became like this whirlwind romance, and I swore we were going to get married. And then late August hit, and two things happened that really just pushed me over. I was already hanging on the edge, and it just basically pushed me over. And they happened pretty much the same time. One was that a childhood friend of mine, I've spoken about him in another blog, named Gus, died in a car accident the night, on a night that I was working. So even though I didn't know it was him and I didn't respond to the accident because I was in a different part of town, I heard everything over the radio. I knew that something bad had happened, and I knew that that car accident, had gone bad. And he drove into a tree, and he was dead on arrival. And this was, I actually have his name tattooed on my arm right there. I mean, it was hard to swallow, man. This guy was a legend in Montclair, and seemed to just have such a bright future. On top of that, he was a friend. He dated my best friend for like 4 years, and I mean, we all hung out hard. And that was late August. I'm not exactly sure the date. I want to say August 25th. And then right behind that, Hurricane Katrina hit the Gulf Coast, and I got a lot of family down there. I mean, the house my mother grew up in is 2 blocks off the coast of the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, you could walk to the beach, and a lot of she was born there. She's the baby of all her siblings, and she moved up here when she was 17. So I mean, all of my mother's side of the family is from Mississippi, and we didn't hear anything from certain people for days, and we didn't know, if people were okay, and it was a really like trying time, and that just, it seemed like even when I could go a day or two without drinking, it was hard for me, and then when this stuff happened, I just snowballed. So this was becoming problematic with my girlfriend. Her father was an alcoholic and a drug addict, and she wasn't ready to lose somebody else with the same affliction, and so she started to give me a hard time. And so I tried harder. I tried to stop drinking, but it was just kind of like, I would drink on days when I didn't think I was going to see her, and then I would call her at work, and she could tell, and it was stupid, So I just started to snowball for 4 to 6 weeks. I mean, she would get mad, she'd break up with me. Then she'd come back, and I'd promise I'd never drink again, and then I would. And the only thing that really mattered to me, the only time I could really, really stay partially sober was with Shaquan. Because through all this, I had my son, which I don't know was the best thing in the world now that I look back on it. I thought I was being a good parent to him. I thought I was being a good role model to him, and I was very attentive to him. I loved him, but I was drunk all the time. So he was with me one night. I don't know why I started drinking. I started drinking, and I called my girlfriend and at work, and she could tell that I was drunk, and she's like, I can't do this anymore. It's over. And I snapped. I put my son to sleep, and I mean, it was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so it was like nap time anyway, but I put him to sleep. I went back to the liquor store, left him in the house alone, 2 years old. Got a pint of whatever, probably, I think around that time it was Christian Brothers. Came back and got drunk, and when I had a good buzz on, I'm not a pill popper, I never was, so I had a whole bunch of prescriptions that were never used laying around, and Aleve and Advil and all that laying around, and I took every pill in my room, everything I could find, and then I just started texting the girls that I used to coach that I had gotten so close to. I just started texting them and just telling them that I loved them, and one of them caught on. One of them realized what was going on, and she knew I wasn't okay, and she called the cops, and the cops came, and I was supposed to be at work that day. I called out sick, and my shift was working, and they had to come bust the door down to come get to me. So I mean, that was embarrassing. But just, more of the stuff that comes with addiction, and stuff that you look back on, and it just makes you cringe. But that's kind of why I'm telling the story, is so that people understand the depth and the nature of addiction, and how bad it can be. So that's where chapter 13 ends. On my way to the hospital, and on my way to another rehab, a real rehab this time, and I'll tell that story in the next chapter. And believe it or not, that's not rock bottom. I would hope that was, but that was really the beginning of the ugliest days of my life. So I'll talk about that more in the next blog. Take care.